You can't expect to soar to your destiny when you're dragging things that were never meant to go with you. Sometimes what's holding you down isn't always obvious. It's subtle, like a small crack in the foundation that weakens the entire structure. That weight could be a relationship that no longer aligns with where you're going, or a habit that's silently draining your strength. You have to take a moment to evaluate what's slowing you down, what's sapping your energy, and what keeps replaying in your mind telling you that you can't. It's not enough to just feel heavy. You've got to look at the source of the heaviness, the conversations that leave you feeling drained, the commitments that no longer serve your purpose, the excuses you tell yourself. They all add up. It's like running a race with a backpack full of rocks. The race was never meant to be this hard, but you've got to stop and unpack what you're carrying. Sometimes the weight is disguised as comfort. You hold on because it's familiar, but familiar doesn't mean fruitful. Familiar doesn't mean functional. Just because you've been in it a long time doesn't mean it belongs in your life today. Comfort can deceive you into thinking that what you're holding is necessary, but the truth is, it's only keeping you stuck. Recognizing dead weight means being brutally honest with yourself. It means asking hard questions. Who are the people in my circle? What are the thoughts in my mind? What are the habits in my life? And most importantly, are they pushing me forward or pulling me back? If it's not contributing to your growth, it's consuming your potential. The hardest part of this process is admitting that some of the weight is self-imposed. Maybe it's the fear of failure that keeps you from stepping out. Maybe it's the guilt that tells you to keep doing what you've always done, even when it no longer fits. You've got to stop playing small because you're afraid of offending people who are comfortable with the old version of you. Sometimes what you're holding on to is tied to who you used to be. It's the version of you that didn't know any better, the version that settled for less, the version that didn't believe in greater, but you've outgrown that person, and yet you're still carrying the baggage. It's time to stop and realize that where you're going requires you to travel lighter. When you recognize the dead weight, you don't blame it, you don't shame it, but you do name it, you call it what it is. It's not betrayal to let go of what's holding you back, it's alignment with your destiny. Don't waste your energy defending why you're letting go. Focus your energy on preparing to rise. Recognizing the weight doesn't mean you're weak, it means you're aware. It means you're strong enough to face what's been keeping you down. It's not about fixing everything at once, it's about taking one step, one decision, one release at a time. Each choice to let go gets you closer to the freedom you're longing for. This is your moment to stop and assess, to look at what you're carrying and to decide if it's worth the price of your potential. Some weights were only meant to teach you a lesson, not to be carried into your future. You've got to free your hands, free your mind, and free your heart, because what's ahead of you is too important to be delayed by what's behind you. Separation is never comfortable. It stretches you, challenges you, and sometimes even breaks your heart. But there are moments in life when staying attached to what you've outgrown costs more than letting go. Elevation demands separation, and though it hurts, the pain is often a sign that growth is happening. You can't cling to the old while reaching for the new. It's like trying to climb a mountain while holding onto the valley below. It simply doesn't work. The pain of separation often comes because we confuse attachment with alignment. Just because something has been with you doesn't mean it's still meant for you. Some connections were only designed to take you so far, and when their season ends, holding on can lead to stagnation. The ache you feel is not punishment, it's preparation. It's the process of making room for what's coming next. People often fear separation because they don't know what life will look like on the other side. The uncertainty feels overwhelming, but you can't let the fear of the unknown keep you bound to what's familiar. Sometimes the familiar is the very thing sabotaging your future. You have to trust that even though it hurts, what you're stepping into is greater than what you're leaving behind. Pain has a purpose. It strips away illusions and reveals truths we often avoid. In separation, you discover your strength, your resilience, and your capacity to grow. You realize that the thing you thought you couldn't live without was never the source of your strength, it was just a crutch. And when the crutch is removed, you learn how to stand, how to walk, and eventually how to soar. The struggle isn't just about letting go of what's around you, it's also about what's inside you. Sometimes the separation you need is from your own mindset, your own habits, and your own fears. It's painful to confront the parts of yourself that no longer serve you, but until you do, you can't step fully into the person you're called to be. Don't let the pain deceive you. Pain often whispers lies, telling you that separation means failure or abandonment. But the truth is, separation is sometimes the clearest sign of progress. It's God's way of pruning your life, cutting away what's not fruitful so that you can grow stronger, healthier, and more purposeful. Elevation will cost you comfort. It will cost you familiarity. It might even cost you relationships you thought would last forever. But what it will give you in return, clarity, freedom, and growth is worth every tear, every moment of loneliness, and every ounce of pain. You can't rise to the next level while staying tethered to the last one. Letting go doesn't mean dishonoring what was. It means recognizing that what brought you here won't take you there. Appreciate the role it played in your life, but don't let appreciation turn into attachment. Release it with gratitude, knowing that your path is unfolding exactly as it should. The pain of separation may feel unbearable at times, but remember, pain is temporary and purpose is eternal. This moment is shaping you, refining you, and preparing you for the weight of what's coming next. Hold on to the promise that every tear you shed and every piece of your heart that aches is paving the way for your elevation. It's hard to stop watering something you've invested so much time and energy into. You tell yourself maybe one more try, one more effort, one more sacrifice, but if you keep pouring into soil that refuses to produce, you'll find yourself drained, empty, and frustrated. You can't keep giving your best to things, people, or situations that won't grow you in return. There's a difference between patience and futility, and wisdom knows when to stop. Some things look like they have potential, but potential doesn't always translate into progress. You've been stuck in cycles because you're waiting for something to change that was never designed to bear fruit in your life. You're trying to make it work, but the truth is what you're watering isn't connected to your purpose. No matter how much water you give it, it's not going to grow because it's not yours to grow. The hardest part is letting go of the illusion. You thought this relationship, this job, this opportunity was the one you saw glimpses of what it could be, but those glimpses were not reality, they were hopes. And hope is powerful. But hope misplaced will exhaust you. You can't keep investing in a vision that doesn't align with where you're going. Your energy is sacred and your resources are limited. If you keep pouring into what's dead, you'll have nothing left for what's alive. There's something waiting for your attention, something that's ready to flourish, but you're too distracted by what's not working to see it. Stop trying to force what isn't flowing. The right opportunities will respond to your efforts. Sometimes we water out of obligation. You feel like you owe it to them, like you can't just walk away. But you owe more to yourself than you do to anything or anyone who isn't reciprocating your energy. Your growth is too important to sacrifice for the sake of appearances, guilt, or fear of what others will think. You're not abandoning, it's pruning, and pruning is essential for growth. When you stop watering what's not growing, you'll experience a shift. You'll notice how much lighter you feel, how much more clarity you have, and how your focus begins to shift toward things that actually bring life. What you let go of makes room for what you're truly meant to nurture. Growth requires intentionality, and you can't afford to waste another drop of your time on barren ground. You must understand this. Everything that doesn't grow you eventually drains you. It's a law of life. If it doesn't challenge you to be better, if it doesn't stretch you, if it doesn't align with your purpose, it's taking from you. And you deserve to be surrounded by things and people that pour back into you, that fill you up and propel you forward. Walking away doesn't mean you failed. It doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're wise. It means you've learned the value of your energy, your time, and your purpose. It means you're ready to channel your resources into what truly matters, into what will bear fruit for your future. Stop watering what's not growing. You're not here to waste your life trying to force something to work. You're here to thrive, to flourish, to become everything you were created to be. And that means investing in the right soil with the right seeds at the right time. Let go of what's not growing so you can embrace the abundant harvest that's waiting for you. Forgiveness is one of the hardest things to do because it feels like letting someone off the hook. But what if I told you that forgiveness isn't about them? It's not about what they did or how they acted. Forgiveness is about freeing yourself from the weight of the hurt they left behind. Resentment is like carrying a heavy chain that ties you to the past and keeps you from reaching for the future. Forgiveness isn't weakness, it's strength. It's saying, I refuse to let what you did hold me back any longer. When you hold on to resentment, you're not punishing them, you're punishing yourself. The anger, the bitterness, the pain, it doesn't hurt them, it hurts you. You replay the offense over and over in your mind, but every time you do, it's like reliving the moment. You're not meant to live in the prison of what happened. Forgiveness is the key that unlocks the door, and you hold it in your hands. Well, forgiving doesn't mean you're excusing what they did. It doesn't mean you're pretending it didn't hurt. It means you're choosing to release the power it has over you. You're deciding that your peace is more important than your pride. You're letting go of the need for revenge, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve freedom. Resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. It eats away at your joy, your energy, and your ability to move forward. You can't grab hold of the blessings in front of you while your hands are full of bitterness. Forgiveness empties your hands and opens your heart. It creates space for new things to grow where pain once lived. Sometimes the hardest person to forgive is yourself. You hold on to guilt, regret, and shame like a badge of honor, thinking that punishing yourself will somehow make things right. But forgiveness applies to you too. You're not defined by your mistakes. Let go of what you've been carrying and release yourself into the grace that allows you to grow beyond it. Forgiveness isn't a one-time act, it's a process. Some wounds run deep and healing takes time, but every step you take toward forgiveness is a step toward freedom. You might have to forgive in layers, releasing a little more each day. That's okay. Progress, not perfection, is the goal. Keep moving forward. The enemy of forgiveness is pride. Pride tells you that if you forgive, you're weak. Pride whispers that holding on to anger gives you power. But pride is a liar. True power is in the ability to forgive and keep moving. True power is choosing peace over chaos, wholeness over brokenness. Pride wants to keep you bound, but forgiveness sets you free. Letting go doesn't mean you have to reconcile or return to the way things were. Forgiveness doesn't always mean restoration. It means releasing yourself from the hold the situation has on your spirit. It's about finding closure within, even if you never hear an apology or see justice served. Your healing isn't dependent on their actions, it's dependent on your decision. Forgive and release. Let go of the weight you've been carrying. The longer you hold on, the more it holds you back. You've got too much ahead of you. Stay tied to what's behind you. Forgive for the sake of your own soul. Forgive because greater things are waiting for you. And resentment is too heavy to carry on the journey to your destiny. The journey ahead of you is too important to be weighed down by what's behind you. You're heading towards something greater, but to get there, you've got to lighten your load. Every step you take while carrying yesterday's burdens makes the road feel longer than it really is. You've got to ask yourself, is this weight helping me or holding me? If it's not pushing you forward, it's pulling you back. Some of the things you're carrying weren't even yours to begin with. You picked up expectations, opinions, and responsibilities that were never meant to be on your shoulders. You've been trying to prove yourself to people who don't even understand your journey, carrying the weight of their approval when you don't need it to walk in your purpose. Drop the need to please and keep moving forward. Not every wound is meant to travel with you. You've been holding on to old pain, replaying what they said, what they did, what they didn't do. But dragging the past into your present doesn't change what happened, it only delays where you're going. Healing requires release. Let go of the resentment, the regret, and the shame, because they are not meant to be part of your future. Sometimes it's the little things that weigh you down the most. A grudge here, a worry there, a fear that whispers, what if those small things add up, turning into a weight that slows your steps? You've got to let go of even the small burdens. You need agility for this journey. You need to be free to pivot, to leap, and to run when the time comes. Letting go isn't always about pain. Sometimes it's about pruning. You've got some good things in your life that aren't aligned with where you're going. They were blessings for one season, but if you carry them into the next, they'll become distractions. Travel light by focusing only on what truly matters to your purpose. The road ahead isn't straight. There will be turns, hills, and obstacles you can't see yet. If you're weighed down by unnecessary baggage, you'll find yourself stuck at every challenge. But when you travel light, you have the flexibility to adjust, to adapt, and to keep moving no matter what comes your way. You've been carrying other people's expectations, and it's exhausting. They want you to be this, to do that, to stay the same, but your destiny doesn't depend on their comfort. You weren't designed to live in a box someone else built for you. Release their expectations and step fully into the person you were created to be. I think about the moments you've hesitated, the times you've second-guessed yourself because of the baggage you're carrying. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown, they're all weights that keep you from stepping into your destiny. Drop the fear and trust that what's ahead is worth every ounce of faith it will take to get there. Travel light because you were made to soar. You can't rise to the heights you're destined for while holding on to things that no longer serve you. Lay them down. Release the weight. Focus on the path ahead and trust that every step you take will bring you closer to the future you were born to walk in. Growth is a natural part of life, but it often comes with resistance. People who are comfortable with the old you may struggle to accept the person you're becoming. That's not your burden to carry. You don't need to apologize for outgrowing spaces, relationships, or mindsets that no longer align with who you are. Growth isn't betrayal, it's evolution. It's stepping into the fullness of your potential. There are those who want you to stay the same because your growth makes them uncomfortable. It challenges their narrative of who you're supposed to be, but you can't shrink yourself to fit someone else's expectations. Their discomfort is not your responsibility. Your purpose requires you to expand, to rise, to reach for more, even if it means leaving some people behind. Apologizing for growth is like apologizing for breathing. You're not meant to stay in one place. You're not meant to live small so others can feel big. Every step you take toward your purpose may upset someone, but remember, those who truly care about you will celebrate your evolution, not resent it. Some people loved you for who you were, but they can't handle who you're becoming. That's okay. Not everyone is meant to journey with you to the next level. Growth has a way of exposing who's genuinely for you and who is only there for their own comfort. You don't have to argue, explain, or defend yourself. Just keep growing. The hardest part about growth is the loneliness that sometimes comes with it. You may feel isolated as you shed old relationships and habits, but don't let that stop you. Growth isn't about fitting in, it's about standing out. The connections you're meant to have will find you in your new season. Trust the process. You'll be misunderstood. People might call you arrogant, selfish, or ungrateful for choosing to prioritize your growth, but don't let their words distract you. Those who truly know your heart will see the truth. And even if they don't, remember that your growth isn't for them, it's for the purpose you're called to fulfill. Every level of growth requires sacrifice. You may have to let go of things you once loved, routines you found comfortable, or people who were part of your past. But those sacrifices are necessary. You can't carry the weight of your old life into your new one. Growth demands space, and that means releasing what no longer fits. Don't apologize for shining brighter. Your light will inspire some and irritate others, but that's not your concern. You weren't created to dim your brilliance for anyone. Stand tall, embrace your growth, and let your life be a testament to what's possible when you refuse to stay small. Growth is not just about reaching higher, it's about becoming more confident, more purposeful, more aligned with who you were created to be. You don't need permission to grow, and you certainly don't need to apologize for it. Keep moving forward, knowing that those meant to walk with you will rise to meet you where you are. Clutter, whether physical, emotional, or mental, is a distraction. It weighs you down, clouds your vision, and prevents you from seeing what's truly important. The more you hold on to what doesn't belong, the more it blocks the clarity you need to move forward. You can't receive the new while your hands are full of yesterday's baggage. The act of letting go isn't about giving up, it's about making space for the things that will truly serve you. When your life is cluttered, you lose focus. You become overwhelmed, scattered, and disconnected from your purpose. Clarity is what brings direction. It's the peace you feel when you strip away the excess and focus on what truly matters. But to get there, you must be willing to release the things that have been holding you hostage, whether they're things, people, or old habits. Sometimes the clutter is in your mind. Negative thoughts, fears, and doubts cloud your judgment and keep you stuck in indecision. You keep replaying old stories that no longer serve you. Letting go of those mental distractions clears the way for a new narrative, one that is centered on your purpose and your potential. When you clear the clutter in your mind, you free up space for clarity and vision. Then there's emotional clutter, the grudges, the past hurts, the toxic relationships that drain your energy. Holding on to this emotional baggage keeps you tied to what's hurt you, rather than releasing it to make room for healing. You cannot fully step into the future if your heart is still carrying the weight of unresolved pain. When you choose to forgive and release, you create space for joy, peace, and new healthy connections. Clutter can also come in the form of possessions. How many times do we hold on to things that no longer serve us, that we don't need, and that are simply taking up space in our lives? Every item we hold on to for sentimental reasons or out of obligation is taking up mental and emotional space that could be better used. When you declutter your surroundings, you give yourself permission to breathe freely and embrace the simplicity that brings clarity. The more you hold on to the old, the less room you make for the new. You might be stuck in a cycle of trying to force things that no longer fit, when what you need to do is let go. Let go of the past, let go of things that no longer serve you, let go of people who aren't meant to be a part of your journey. The moment you do, clarity will flood your heart and mind, showing you the next step on your path. Clarity doesn't come when you're overwhelmed with distractions. It comes when you've intentionally created space to listen, to focus, and to be present in the moment. When you declutter your life, you open the door for insight, guidance, and wisdom to flow freely. You begin to see things clearly without the distortion of unnecessary noise. Letting go of clutter isn't just about getting rid of things, it's about realigning yourself with your purpose. It's about focusing your energy on what matters most and releasing everything else that's diverting your attention. The more space you make in your life, the more room you create for the people, opportunities, and experiences that were meant to be. When you clear out the clutter, you clear the path for your future. You begin to walk lighter, think clearer, and live more intentionally. You make room for the life you were always meant to live and the person you were always meant to be. So let go of what doesn't belong and watch as clarity begins to unfold in every area of your life. There are times in life when we find ourselves holding on to something so tightly, even though deep down we know it's time to let go. The fear of the unknown, the uncertainty of what's next can make us hold on to things that no longer serve us. But God works in the gaps, the spaces we think are empty, the moments we believe we're missing something. Trusting God with the gap means having the faith to release what's in your hand, knowing that He will fill that space with something greater than you could ever imagine. It's hard to let go when you can't see what's coming next. You want to control every step, hold on to what feels safe and familiar because the future seems uncertain. But faith isn't about seeing the whole picture. It's about trusting that God sees it. When you release what you're holding on to, you create room for God to work in ways you couldn't plan, control, or predict. Letting go of what you think you need opens the door to what you truly need. You might have been holding on to a job, a relationship, or an idea that was never meant for you. It might have been good, but it wasn't the best. When you trust God with the gap, you give Him permission to replace what's good with something greater. You might not see it now, but God has a plan and His timing is perfect. Trusting God with the gap requires surrender. It's not easy to release control, but when you trust that God has your best interest at heart, you can rest in the peace that He will fill the void. The space you're afraid of is actually a space of opportunity. It's where growth happens, where new blessings can manifest. Trust that what seems empty is really a place where God is preparing something even more powerful for you. Sometimes we hold on because we're afraid of what it means to be without. We fear that the gap will stay empty, that nothing will come to replace what we've let go. But God is never in the business of leaving you empty. His word promises that He will provide for every need and that He will never leave you lacking. Trust that when you step out in faith, He will meet you where you are and fill you in ways you could never fill yourself. There's a gap in your life right now that's preparing you for something better. That space you're afraid of is actually an invitation for God to do something extraordinary. The gap is where God works miracles. Don't be afraid of it. Don't try to fill it with anything less than what God has for you. Release the old so you can receive the new. Trust that when you let go, God will fill that space with His abundance, His grace, and His provision. When you trust God with the gap, you're not just letting go of what you're holding, you're embracing the faith that says, God, I trust You to take care of me. You're acknowledging that your ways are limited, but God's ways are limitless. He sees what's ahead and He knows exactly what you need at this moment. Let go and trust that what's coming will be worth every ounce of faith it took to release the old. It's easy to doubt when we're faced with a gap. But trust that what you see as a void is actually God's way of making room for his purpose in your life. That space is sacred. It's where transformation happens. You may not know what's coming, but when you trust God, you're giving him permission to fill that gap in the most beautiful, unexpected ways. Don't be afraid of the gap. Trust God with it. Let go of what you're holding and rest in the certainty that he will fill your life with what's meant to be. The empty space isn't an absence, it's a divine opportunity. Trust the process, trust the timing, and trust that God's plan for your life is far greater than anything you could ever hold on to. Thanks for watching.